All right, folks, it is Sunday evening, and when I say that Obama is establishing a dictatorship of the executive, I'm not joking. For decades, since the founding of FEMA in '79, there have been congressional hearings about this, the whole continuity of government system being used as a pretext to set up a dictatorship of the executive and the bureaucracy that itself is controlled by the banking cartel, the military-industrial complex, has been a serious threat to our country, as it's been to every other nation. You always hear about third world countries that have presidents or prime ministers that basically set up dictatorships by ignoring their legislatures, their parliaments. Hugo Chavez is now in trouble for that. Julius Caesar, over 2,000 years ago. Hitler. The examples go on and on and on. But I have to be honest with you. It's still hard to believe this is happening in America. We've got a special report coming out later in the evening. I just shot at the studio that'll have close shots of all these news articles. This is so important, I'm going to cover this now. This is probably the most important information I have ever covered. It's one thing to know hypothetically they're setting this up and demonizing the Constitution in Time Magazine and Newsweek and talking about how great it would be if it was gone and we had a dictator. As Bush joked about 5 years ago, things would be a heck of a lot easier so long as I'm the dictator. Now it's actually happening. This is a small portion of what I'm talking about. Let me just read you the headlines. Obscure clause may help U.S. avert debt. AFP. The Hill. Legality of 14th Amendment solution comes under fire. I'm going to get to that in a moment. From WhiteHouse.gov. President Obama signs executive order establishing Council of Governors. 10 governors he appoints that then speak for the states, not the 50 states. Continuing, Obama's Rural Council is just another attempt to control rural America. This is like something out of Stalin's era in Russia, when you get into the Rural Council to take over. Big agriculture, big outfits have written that. Now, continuing here, look at this article. Remember this? Call to give Obama kill switch powers to cut internet access in the event of national cyber crisis. And they admit the Pentagon runs that, and it's to censor news and information. So that's just some of what we have. Now I'm going to go back through all of this. This is only part of it. Now here's another headline. Michigan woman faces 93 days in jail for planting vegetable garden. This is a WJBK TV. I mean, this is really happening. Right out of the Soviet Union under Stalin. Now, this is the Huffington Post. This is the Huffington Post. They are positive in this article about what's happening. They say, thank God Obama's taking executive charge. That's a nice way of saying dictatorship. He can't get bans on semi-automatics, they call assault weapons. He can't shut down gun shows. He can't have the no-fly, no-buy that his former chief of staff, Rahm Emanuel, called for, saying, we're going to put you on a list, no judge, no jury, no due process, don't know why you're on a list. You just can't ever buy a gun again through the FBI instant check. It was supposed to be a waiting period. They say in here that Obama is set in the next 2 days to release an executive order. And, of course, they're basically the mouthpiece with AOL, the White House now, that's admitted, and George Soros finances much of this. They're saying how great this executive order is going to be. And Obama's saying, no big deal. Gun control we can all agree on. Don't worry about Congress. I'm going to ban importation of guns using executive power outside Congress. And I don't need Congress. Just like he doesn't need Congress, I almost forgot, to launch the Libyan war. Congress even offered to authorize it. He said, I don't need you. I have the UN. That's definitely under the power of Congress. He's saying the power of the purse. If you don't raise the debt limit, he's just going to do it. That's coming up. But here is Obama saying that, and the White House communications director putting this out on Friday, saying that they don't need Congress for gun control, and he's going to do this executive. The Congress represents the states and the people. They pass the tax laws. They pass the tax bills. They pass the war powers. The president executes it. And at the end of this chilling article, they say, still, executive action offers something that legislation doesn't, guaranteed results. And as one gun control advocate told the Huffington Post, there are ways to use the administrative changes to obtain similar results. And they go on to say, I mean, it doesn't get any more secret police than that if we feel like it, you're just not going to be able to buy a gun. Not that you're even a misdemeanor person or a felon. We're just going to do it. So that's the reality of what's happening here. And you add to this launching the Libya war without congressional authorization and saying, I don't need your authorization. I'm doing this for the credibility of the UN, the EPA. They wouldn't pass his carbon taxes, so he's had the EPA implement it against people that aren't his political donors. General Electric and others are exempt. You've got this incredible French news agency report, The Hill, and others. And when you read this news article, here, let me pull it out. When you read this, it says obscure clause may help U.S. avert deficit, and they say using powers that were invoked at the end of the Civil War during Reconstruction, when the South didn't want to pay war reparations, the president can use these 14th Amendment powers on the federal Congress if they won't levy up trillions more to the bankers that fully financed his campaign and run his administration. You heard me right, and of course the media is freaking out. The Hill, others, that's the congressional publication, are saying this is an absolute joke. Obviously, Congress controls the purse strings and can stop the debt limit going up and borrowing from the same private banks that we're just basically bailing out and paying interest to for the pleasure of it. You add the governor council over the states, you add the rural councils, you add all of this, it just goes on and on and on and on. This is dictatorship being set up. And I'm sure Obama next year or 4 years later will leave office. It's the office itself, not the personalities, that is being empowered. It is this corporate-owned, fascist-owned office of the American presidency that is a wholly owned subsidiary of these offshore banks that is setting this up. This is unspeakable. You know, Ron Paul said a couple months ago, that it was the last nail in the Republic's coffin if Obama could launch wars without congressional approval. Well, if it's the last nail, this is the coffin being lowered into the ground and dirt being dumped on it. And we've seen this in hundreds of other countries just in the last few decades. It's constantly happening in third world nations. We've seen it thousands of times in history. We know exactly what this is. Please warn everyone you know about this information. We've got to save the Republic, because if they can get away with this, they can do anything. Please spread the word. I'll see you back live tomorrow at 11 a.m. Central at Infowars.com for the live radio show.